Captain Rachel Morrison stood at the bridge window of the U.S. Defiant, watching Earth grow smaller in the distance. Her hands gripped the steel railing until her knuckles turned white. The blue planet, wrapped in its protective fleet just 6 months ago, now lay almost defenseless. Only 12 ships remained of what had once been humanity's proud space force. "Captain, incoming transmission from Lunar Base," called out Lisa Carter, her voice shaking slightly. The young communications officer's usual calm had cracked after 3 days without sleep. "Put it on screen," Rachel ordered, turning to face the main display. The image flickered to life, showing Commander Paul Wilson's dust-covered face. Explosions lit up the background of his transmission. "Defiant, this is Lunar Base. We can't hold them back anymore." Paul's voice crackled through static. "The Xeneth have breached our main defenses. We're looking at complete collapse within the hour." Rachel's jaw tightened. "We can turn back. The Defiant still has half its missile complement." We cooled. "Negative, Captain." Paul cut her off. "You have your orders. Earth needs that carrier more than we do." Wilson out. The screen went dark. First Officer David Cooper stepped up beside her, his tablet displaying battle statistics. "Captain, I've been studying the Xeneth attack patterns from the last 3 months. There's something odd about their formations." "Show me," Rachel said, pushing aside her grief for the moment. The bridge crew gathered around as David pulled up a holographic display. "See these gaps?" He pointed to spaces between the alien ships. "They appear random, but they're not. The Xeneth leave the same blind spots in every major assault. It's like they physically can't see certain areas of space." Rachel leaned closer. "How did we miss this?" "Because we were too busy running." David's words carried no judgment. "But now that I've compared data from 15 different battles, the pattern is clear. These blind spots could be our advantage." A warning klaxon cut through their discussion. "Multiple Xeneth signatures detected," called out the sensor officer. 3 destroyers just emerged from FTL. Rachel straightened her uniform. "Battle stations. Lieutenant Nash, plot an escape course through Sector 7. "But Captain," Robert Nash turned in his pilot's chair, "that sector's full of asteroid fields. The Defiant's too big toe. Those asteroids might save our lives." "David, do any of those blind spots line up with the field?" David's fingers flew over his console. "Yes. 2 major gaps intersect with the densest part of the field." "Then that's where we're going." Rachel activated the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is the captain. Secure for emergency maneuvers. Engineering, I need everything you can give the forward shields." Chief Engineer Karen Martinez's voice came back instantly. "You've got it, Captain. But whatever you're planning, make it quick. The new reactor modifications aren't fully tested." The Defiant shuddered as the first Xeneth shots found their mark. The alien ships, looking like massive black thorns against the stars, launched another barrage. "Shields at 82%, called out the defense officer. Rachel watched the asteroid field growing larger on the main screen. The Defiant was humanity's last carrier, carrying the seeds of their future resistance within its hangars. She couldn't lose this ship. Not today. "Robert, plot our course through this exact point." She marked a spot on his navigation display. "Full power to engines the moment we enter the field." The bridge crew worked in focused silence as the massive ship threaded its way into the asteroid field. The Xeneth followed, their superior ships easily keeping pace. "They're charging weapons," David reported. "Hold course," Rachel ordered. "Wait for it." The Defiant slipped between 2 massive rocks, and Rachel saw their moment. Now, hard to port and full reverse thrusters. The carrier swung around with surprising grace for its size. The Xeneth ships, committed to their pursuit, flew straight into the trap. Just as David's analysis had shown, they didn't react to the asteroids in their blind spots. 2 destroyers smashed into the massive rocks at full speed, their shields useless against the pure kinetic impact. The 3rd Xeneth ship managed to pull up, but the Defiant was ready. All batteries, fire, Rachel commanded. The carrier's guns lit up space, catching the alien ship in a crossfire. Without its companion's support, the destroyer couldn't withstand the barrage. It split apart in a silent explosion. As debris floated past the bridge windows, Rachel finally let herself breathe. Damage report. Minor hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. Karen reported from engineering. Nothing we can't handle. David stepped up beside Rachel again. That was a costly lesson for them. They'll adapt their tactics now that we've exposed this weakness. Good. Rachel's eyes hardened. Because we're done running. Send a coded transmission to all remaining human ships. Tell them we found a way to hurt these bastards. And then get me everything you have on those blind spots. It's time humanity showed the Xenoth why you should never corner a species that invented the art of war. The Defiant turned away from Earth, carrying humanity's hopes with it. Behind them, Lunar Base fell silent, its sacrifice marking the beginning of a new phase in the war. The real fight was just beginning. Marine Commander Stephen Wright lay flat on his stomach, peering through his binoculars at the ruins of New Eden Colony. The once bustling human settlement now served as a Xenoth supply base. 3 of the alien ships towered over the broken buildings, their black surfaces drinking in the light of the setting sun. "Talk to me, Miller," he whispered into his comm. Private Amy Miller, his best scout, had spent the last hour mapping guard patterns. 6 patrol groups, sir, she replied softly. They're walking in circles, just like the captain said they would. Those blind spots show up in their ground forces too. Stephen allowed himself a small smile. Captain Morrison's discovery was proving more valuable by the day. Martine's team, are you in position? Ready and waiting, Commander, came the response from his other squad. We've got the charges set. Stephen checked his weapon one last time. Remember, people, this is a grab and run. We get into the ruins, find what the sensors picked up, and get out. No heroics. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in deep purples. Time to move. Stephen gave the signal, and his team of 12 Marines began their careful advance toward the colony. The first part of their plan worked perfectly. The Xenoth guards marched right past them, their faceless helmets turning everywhere except the specific angles Stephen's team had chosen for their approach. The humans slipped through their patrol lines like ghosts. "This is too easy," whispered Corporal Ben Foster, one of Stephen's veterans. As if the universe heard him, alarms suddenly blared across the colony. But they weren't for Stephen's team. Multiple impacts on the north side, Miller reported. Something's attacking the Xenoth. Stephen raised his hand, signaling his team to hold position. Through his binoculars, he watched Xenoth troops rushing toward the disturbance. Martinez, status. Wasn't us, sir. Our charges are still set. A new voice cut through their comm channel. Sorry for dropping in uninvited, Commander. Stephen recognized Lieutenant Robert Nash's voice from the Defiant. Captain Morrison thought you could use a diversion. Stephen shook his head, smiling. Remind me to buy Nash a drink later. All teams, move in now. They raced through the empty streets, heading for the strange energy readings they detected from orbit. The source led them to the colony's old science building. Inside, they found exactly what the Xenoth had been trying to hide. My God, Foster breathed, staring at the giant archway that filled the basement. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, covered in symbols that definitely weren't Xenoth in origin. Start scanning, Stephen ordered. Miller, Foster, watch our backs. Everyone else, spread out and grab anything that looks important. The team worked quickly. Amy stood guard while scientists turned Marines took readings and copied data. The arch seemed to hum louder as they worked, its surface beginning to glow. Then Foster's voice came through the comm. Commander, we've got a problem. Harrison's not responding to challenge codes. Stephen's blood ran cold. Harrison had been their technology expert, the one who'd first detected these energy readings. Where is he? Sir, he's walking toward the Xenoth ships. Stop him. But it was too late. New alarms blared, and Stephen heard the heavy footsteps of Xenoth troops approaching. Martinez's team, detonate the charges now, Stephen commanded. Explosions rocked the colony, but they seemed far away compared to the growing hum of the arch. Sir, one of his scientists called out. These readings, this isn't just ancient tech. It's some kind of power source, and it's affecting local space-time. Download everything you can. We're leaving. Now. The firefight back to their ships was brutal. Harrison had told the Xenoth exactly where to find them, but Stephen's Marines were ready. They used the aliens' own blind spots against them, striking from angles that Xenoth literally couldn't process. Commander, Miller called out between shots. The Arch's power readings are off the charts. Stephen made a split-second decision. Foster, give me the plasma charges. Sir, those are our last. Just do it. He took the charges and ran back into the building while his team provided cover fire. The arch was now blazing with light, its symbols pulsing. Stephen set the charges at its base, saying a quick prayer that he wasn't about to destroy humanity's last hope. Everyone to the ships. Now. They ran. Behind them, the plasma charges detonated. The explosion was strange. Instead of fire and debris, there was a flash of blue light that seemed to bend around itself. As their ships lifted off, Stephen watched the Xenoth base through his viewport. The aliens were running around in confusion, their movements jerky and uncoordinated. Whatever that arch had been, its destruction had affected them somehow. Sir, Miller said quietly, Harrison's datapad, before he left. I grabbed it. She handed him a tablet filled with partial translations of the arch symbols. Stephen looked at the glowing text. One word kept repeating. Precursor. He opened a channel to the Defiant. Captain Morrison, tell Chief Martinez to clear her schedule. We found something she needs to see. And ma'am, I think we just found out why the Xenoth are really here. Their ships jumped to light speed, leaving behind a mystery and a traitor. But they carried with them the first real hope humanity had found since the war began. Chief Engineer Karen Martinez hadn't slept in 3 days. She stood in the Defiant's main engineering lab, surrounded by holographic displays of the precursor data. Coffee cups littered her workstation, testament to her endless hours of study. Run the simulation again, she told her computer. The hologram showed the strange energy pattern they'd found in the ruins. It pulsed with an odd blue light, just like the arch had before it was destroyed. The lab doors slid open. Captain Morrison walked in, carrying fresh coffee. Tell me you found something, Rachel said, handing Karen the cup. Karen took a long sip before answering. I think I know why Harrison betrayed us. She pointed to one of the displays. Look at these energy readings. The Xenoth don't just use dark matter for their ships. They need it to live. It's part of their biology. Rachel leaned closer to the display. And the precursor technology affects dark matter somehow. Better than that. Karen pressed a button, and a new simulation appeared. It cancels it out completely. No dark matter means no Xenoth ships, no Xenoth weapons, and most importantly, no Xenoth. Before Rachel could respond, the ship's alarm sounded. Captain to the bridge. David Cooper's voice came through the comm. We've got company. Both women ran to the bridge. On the main screen, 3 Xenoth ships had appeared from nowhere. How did they find us? Rachel demanded. Robert Nash's hands flew over his pilot controls. They're blocking our escape routes. We're trapped in this asteroid field. Rachel started giving orders, but Karen wasn't listening. She was staring at the Xenoth ships, watching how they moved. Something about their formation. Captain, she interrupted, let me try something. She ran to an engineering station and started typing quickly. The precursor data showed how their energy field works. If I can modify our shield generators. Whatever you're going to do it fast, David warned. They're charging weapons. Karen's fingers danced across the controls. She was changing the Defiant's shield frequency to match the pattern they'd found in the ruins. It was crazy. It probably wouldn't work. But the first Xenoth shot hit them. But instead of the usual impact, something strange happened. The blue field flickered around the Defiant, similar to the light from the arch. The Xenoth beams seemed to bend around them. "Their weapons aren't hitting us," Robert shouted. Karen allowed herself a small smile. "Because we're not exactly here anymore. The shield is pushing us slightly out of normal space, right where their dark matter can't affect us." "Can we shoot back?" Rachel asked. "Better than that." Karen moved to another console. "If I reverse the field." She pressed a button. A pulse of blue energy shot out from the Defiant. When it hit the nearest Xenoth ship, the alien vessel's black surface turned gray. It started drifting, its lights flickering out. "Direct hit," David reported. "Their power is failing. The other ships are pulling back." Rachel turned to Karen. "What did you do?" "Turned their greatest strength into a weakness," Karen explained. "Their entire technology depends on dark matter. Take that away." "And they're helpless," Rachel finished. She smiled for the first time in days. "Can you make more of these weapons?" Karen nodded slowly. "The principle is simple enough now that we understand it. But Captain, there's something else you need to see." She led Rachel back to her lab, pulling up a new set of readings. The precursor device didn't just affect the Xenoth ships. "Look at these scans of normal space after we used the weapon." The display showed a web of dark matter streams stretching between stars. "The Xenoth aren't just using dark matter," Karen explained. "They're draining it from the galaxy itself. If they keep going, the galaxy dies," Rachel whispered. Karen nodded. "That's why the precursors built these devices. They weren't weapons. They were tools to stop the Xenoth from destroying everything." Rachel was quiet for a moment. Then she hit her comm button. "This is the captain. All senior staff to the briefing room immediately." She turned to Karen. "How fast can you build more of these devices?" "With help? A few days for the first batch." "But Captain, the power requirements are massive. Using them might burn out our ships." "If we don't use them, we won't have a galaxy left to save." Rachel's face hardened with determination. "Get your best people on it. I'll have the other ships send their engineers to help." As Rachel left the lab, Karen turned back to her work. She had to find a way to make this technology work without destroying their own ships in the process. Outside the lab windows, stars sparkled in the darkness. Karen wondered how many of those lights that Xenoth had already dimmed in their endless hunger for dark matter. "Not our galaxy," she whispered to herself, reaching for another coffee. "Not while we're here to stop you." Admiral William Boyd stood before the holographic display on his command ship, the Northern Star. Representatives from all 12 remaining human ships watched as he laid out the battle plan. "Thanks to Chief Martinez's work, every ship now has working dark matter disruptors," he said, pointing to the blue dots representing human vessels. "But we only have enough power for one big attack. We have to make it count." Captain Rachel Morrison spoke up from her position on the Defiant. "The Xenoth are guarding their main fleet base here." She pointed to a red cluster. "But our scouts found something interesting." The display zoomed in on a massive space station orbiting a dead star. Lieutenant Robert Nash's voice came through the comm. "Their ships return there every 3 days to recharge. Something about the black hole's dark matter makes them stronger." "Then that's our target," William said firmly. "We hit them while they're feeding." The plan was simple, but dangerous. The Defiant would lead a small group to attack the front of the station, drawing out the Xenoth fleet. Meanwhile, Commander Stephen Wright's Marines would sneak aboard using the aliens' own blind spots. They would plant bombs in the station's core. "This is a one-way trip for some of us," William warned. No one spoke, but every face showed the same determination. 3 days later, the Northern Star waited in position behind a field of space debris. William watched his display as the first phase began. The Defiant appeared at the edge of the system, guns blazing. 2 other human ships flew with her, their new blue weapons cutting through Xenoth ships like they were made of paper. "Enemy fleet is responding," reported his tactical officer. 80% of their ships are moving to engage. William keyed his comm. "Commander Wright, you're clear to move." Stephen's voice came back calm and steady. "Strike team is go." While the battle raged at the front of the station, 3 small human ships slipped through the Xenoth blind spots. They carried Stephen's Marines and Karen's newest invention, bombs that could turn dark matter against itself. William watched the dots on his screen, counting the minutes. Everything depended on timing now. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, "new contacts arriving." A lot of them. More Xenoth ships were appearing from deep space. They hadn't expected this many. The Defiant and her group were now badly outnumbered. "Admiral," Rachel's voice crackled through static, "we can't hold them much longer." William's hands gripped his chair. He had to decide: call off the attack and save his ships, or push forward and risk everything. Then Stephen's voice cut through the chaos. "Charges set, but we've got a problem. The detonator's damaged. Someone has to stay to trigger it manually." "Get your people out, Commander," William ordered. "That's an order." "Sorry, sir. Static's really bad. Can't hear you." Stephen's voice was calm. "Tell my family I did it for them. Right out." William closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened a channel to all ships. "Phase 2 begins now. All ships, execute attack pattern Delta." The Northern Star and 4 other human ships burst from their hiding place. Their appearance caught the Xenoth by surprise. Blue beams of energy cut through space as the humans attacked from behind. The Xenoth fleet turned to face the new threat, caught between 2 groups of human ships. That's when Stephen struck. The explosion started small, just a blue flash at the station's core. But it grew quickly, spreading like a wave through space. Every Xenoth ship it touched went dark, their dark matter powers stripped away. "Status report," William demanded. 60% of enemy fleet disabled. His tactical officer reported with growing excitement. 70%. 80. "The station's breaking up," someone shouted. William watched as the massive structure cracked apart. The black hole behind it pulsed once with blue light, then settled back to normal. His sensors showed the dark matter streams around it had changed. The Xenoth couldn't use it to feed anymore. But the victory came at a cost. The 3 ships that had carried Stephen's Marines were gone, consumed by the explosion they had triggered. And the Defiant's engines were failing, their power drained by the weapons they had used. "All ships, move to rescue positions," William ordered. "Get our people out of there." As his ship moved forward, William looked at the drifting hulks of the Xenoth vessels. For the first time since the war began, humanity had won a major battle. But more importantly, they had shown the Xenoth something new. "Fear. Send a message to Earth," he told his communications officer. Tell them to look up at the stars tonight. They'll see our victory shining back at them." Karen Martinez stared at the empty chair in the Defiant's engineering briefing room. It was where Commander Stephen Wright used to sit during their planning sessions. Now it served as a reminder of what their victory had cost. "The new weapons are killing our ships," she told the gathered officers. "The Defiant's main reactor is failing. We can maybe fire the dark matter disruptor 2 more times before it burns out completely." Captain Rachel Morrison nodded slowly. "What about the other ships?" "The Northern Star is in better shape, but not by much." Karen pulled up a diagram showing the fleet's status. Most of the human ships glowed red, indicating serious damage. "We hurt the Xenoth badly at their station. But we're running out of power," Rachel finished. The ship's comm system crackled to life. "Captain to the bridge, emergency." Robert Nash's voice was tense. They rushed to their stations. On the main screen, a massive Xenoth ship was emerging from light speed. It was bigger than any they had seen before. "What is that?" David Cooper asked from his station. Before anyone could answer, The giant ship fired, but instead of their usual black energy beams, this shot was blood red. It hit a nearby asteroid, and the entire rock just disappeared. Analysis, Rachel demanded. Karen's fingers flew over her console. They've modified their weapons. They're not just using dark matter anymore. They're creating micro-black holes. The enemy ship fired again, barely missing the Defiant. Where its beam passed, space itself seemed to twist. They're adapting, David said grimly, learning from their defeats. Rachel gripped her chair. Can we fight that thing? Karen looked at her readings again. The Defiant's reactor won't survive a full power shot, but she paused, an idea forming. Captain, remember how the precursor arch exploded? What if we're not supposed to use this technology as a weapon? Explain. The precursors built tools, not weapons. We've been forcing their technology to do something it wasn't meant for. Karen's eyes lit up with understanding. What if we're supposed to change space itself? A new voice joined their discussion. She's right. Admiral Boyd appeared on a secondary screen. We just decoded more of the precursor data. Their devices were meant to heal the galaxy, not destroy ships. Another red beam lanced out from the Xenith vessel, cutting through space toward them. Whether it's a weapon or a tool, we need to do something now, Robert shouted, spinning the ship to avoid the shot. Karen ran to the engineering station. I need 5 minutes to modify the disruptor. But Captain, she met Rachel's eyes. Using it this way, someone will have to stay behind to manually control the power flow. Rachel stood. No, Karen cut her off. This is an engineering problem. That makes it my job. She managed a small smile. Besides, I'm the only one who knows exactly how to modify it. The ship shook as another near-miss twisted space around them. 3 minutes, Karen shouted as she worked. Get everyone ready to evacuate. The next few minutes were chaos. Crew members ran to escape pods while Karen's fingers danced over the controls. She was rewriting the basic principles of how their ship used the precursor technology. Modification complete, she announced. Everyone out. Now. Rachel stayed on the bridge longest. Karen. Go, Captain. The fleet needs you. Karen didn't look up from her work. Just tell them I was right. Tell them we finally understood what the precursors were trying to teach us. The escape pods launched just as the massive Xenith ship came around for another attack. Karen watched the sensors show her friends reaching safe distance. Then she turned to face the enemy vessel. Let's see how you handle this, she whispered, and activated her modified device. The Defiant's remaining power surged into the disruptor, but instead of firing a beam, it created a sphere of blue energy that grew rapidly outward. Where it touched normal space, reality itself seemed to heal. The dark matter streams that the Xenith had damaged began to repair themselves. The enemy ship fired its red beam. But when it hit Karen's sphere, something amazing happened. The micro-black holes collapsed in on themselves. The blue energy spread faster, encasing both ships in its glow. Karen's last thought, as the light grew blindingly bright, was that she could see the streams of space healing themselves. She had done it. She had shown them the true purpose of the precursor legacy. The sphere expanded to cover the entire sector. When it finally faded, the Xenith superweapon was gone. But so was the Defiant. In their place, the stars shone brighter than before, as if space itself had been renewed. On the Northern Star's bridge, Rachel watched the sensors show the dark matter streams flowing naturally again. They had lost another friend, but Karen's sacrifice had shown them the true path forward. They weren't supposed to fight the Xenith with weapons. They were supposed to heal what the Xenith had broken. Admiral William Boyd called it Operation Starlight. Every remaining human ship gathered near Earth, their hulls modified with Karen Martinez's final design. The fleet was smaller now. Only 8 ships left, but they weren't running anymore. The Xenith are coming, David Cooper announced from his station on the Northern Star. After Karen's sacrifice, He had transferred from the Defiant to serve as the Admiral's tactical officer. Long-range sensors showed their entire fleet. William stood at the command center. Send the signal to Earth. Tell them to activate the ground stations. Across Earth's surface, hundreds of modified satellites powered up. Each one contained a small version of the precursor technology, built from Karen's last designs. They weren't weapons. They were healing points, ready to repair the damage that Xenoth had done to space itself. Enemy fleet dropping out of light speed, David reported. Count is over 300 ships. The Xenoth vessels appeared like a wall of darkness against the stars. Their new flagship was massive, twice the size of the one Karen had destroyed. Its surface rippled with red energy, ready to create more artificial black holes. William opened a channel to all human ships. Karen Martinez showed us the truth. We're not here to destroy. We're here to heal. Remember her sacrifice. Remember what we're fighting for. The Xenoth didn't bother with demands or threats. They simply attacked, their red beams cutting through space toward Earth. All ships, execute pattern Hope, William commanded. The human fleet split into pairs, each ship working with its partner. As the Xenoth weapons approached, the human vessels activated their modified precursor devices together. Blue spheres of energy appeared between them, joining together to form a shield in front of Earth. The red beams hit the blue shield. For a moment, space itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the deadly energy was absorbed, transformed, and used to heal the very fabric of space-time that Xenoth had tried to destroy. It's working, David shouted. The dark matter streams are stabilizing. But the Xenoth kept firing. Each shot was absorbed, but the human ships were straining to maintain the shield. Hull integrity failing on the Madison and the Phoenix, someone reported. They can't hold much longer. William watched as two more human ships' lights flickered and died, their crews evacuating in escape pods. But their sacrifice had bought time for Earth's ground stations to power up fully. Now, William ordered. Hundreds of blue beams shot up from Earth's surface, joining the remaining human ships' energy fields. The combined power created something new, a massive web of healing energy that spread out through space. The Xenoth fleet tried to retreat, but they were caught in the web. Where the blue energy touched their ships, their dark matter power simply faded away. Not destroyed, but returned to its natural flow through the galaxy. Sir, David's voice was filled with awe. Look at the sensors. The dark matter streams that the Xenoth had been draining for centuries were repairing themselves. Natural pathways through space reformed, healing damage they hadn't even known was there. The massive Xenoth flagship made one last attempt to fight back. It fired its strongest beam directly at Earth. William watched it come, knowing they had no ships left to block it. But then something incredible happened. The natural dark matter streams, now flowing properly again, simply absorbed the attack. Space itself had become humanity's shield. The Xenoth ships, David checked his readings twice. They're shutting down. All of them. Without their stolen dark matter power, the mighty Xenoth fleet became nothing more than metal shells floating in space. Inside them, the aliens themselves were changing. Without the dark matter they had depended on for so long, they began to return to their original form, whatever that had been before they started consuming the galaxy's power. William opened a channel to Earth. Ground stations, power down. The threat is over. He turned to his crew. Send ships to rescue the Xenoth crews. They're going to need help adapting to their new existence. As the sun rose over Earth, its light seemed brighter somehow. The stars sparkled more clearly, and space itself felt healthier. They had lost good people to reach this point, Stephen Wright, Karen Martinez, and many others. But their sacrifices had taught humanity a crucial lesson. Sometimes the greatest victory comes not from destroying your enemy, but from healing what they had broken. David stood at the sensor station, watching the natural flow of dark matter through their galaxy. Karen would have loved to see this. he said quietly. William nodded. She did see it. She was the first to understand. And somewhere out there, the precursors are smiling at what we've achieved. The war was over, but humanity's real work, helping to heal the galaxy, was just beginning. 5 years after the final battle, Rachel Morrison stood on the observation deck of the New Earth space station. Below her, the blue planet shone beautifully in the sunlight. But it was the space around Earth that truly caught her attention. The dark matter streams flowed like rivers of starlight, visible to the naked eye now that they were fully healed. They created patterns of cosmic energy that lit up the night sky, reminding everyone of humanity's greatest victory. Admiral Morrison, a young officer, called from the doorway. They're ready for the ceremony. Rachel smiled at her new rank, still not quite used to it after all this time. She followed the officer to the station's main hall, where hundreds of people had gathered. Humans weren't alone anymore. Former Xenoth, now called the Restored, sat among the crowd. Without their dark matter addiction, they had become peaceful allies, helping to heal the damage their past selves had caused. At the front of the hall, a large wall displayed the names of those lost in the war. Rachel's eyes found the ones she knew best: Commander Stephen Wright, Chief Engineer Karen Martins, and so many others. Their sacrifices had changed the galaxy forever. Admiral William Boyd stood at the podium, his hair now fully gray. 5 years ago today, he began, we learned that the greatest power in the universe isn't the ability to destroy. It's the power to heal. Today we open the first Precursor Academy, where humans and Restored will learn together how to continue our mission of healing the galaxy. Rachel walked to the front as her name was called. As the new head of the academy, she would teach others what Karen had discovered about the precursor technology. David Cooper stood beside her, ready to share his knowledge of the dark matter stream's natural patterns. The first class includes students from 20 different worlds, Rachel told the crowd. Each of them will learn not just how to use the precursor tools, but why we use them. They'll understand that every part of space is connected, and that healing one area helps heal everything around it. After the ceremony, Rachel met with Robert Nash, now captain of his own ship, the Martins. "How's the mapping project going?" she asked. Robert pulled up a hologram showing their galaxy. Bright blue lines marked the areas where they had already restored the natural flow of dark matter. "We're about 20% done," he said. "Each repair makes the next one easier. The galaxy is healing itself now. We just help it along." "And the Restored?" Rachel asked. "Their children are being born normal now," Robert reported. "No dark matter dependency. They're helping us find old Zenith outposts and convert them into healing stations. Their knowledge of space has been invaluable." A small group of students entered the room, humans and Restored together, all wearing the blue uniforms of the Precursor Academy. They stopped to look at the memorial wall, their faces showing respect for those who had made their peaceful future possible. Rachel watched them with pride. These young people would carry on the work that Karen had started. They would continue to heal the galaxy, one star system at a time. Later that night, Rachel returned to the observation deck. David joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee, a habit they'd picked up from Karen. "Sometimes I wonder what she would think of all this," David said, looking out at the glowing streams of dark matter. "She knew," Rachel replied softly. "That's why she sacrificed herself. She saw the future we could build if we just understood what the precursors were trying to tell us." Below them, Earth's cities glittered in the darkness, but they weren't as bright as they used to be. Humanity had learned to live in harmony with the natural flow of energy in the universe. The stars shone more clearly now, no longer fighting through damaged space to reach them. A group of Restored children ran past the observation window, playing with human kids. They all wore small badges showing Earth's new symbol, a blue spiral representing the healed dark matter streams. "The next class starts tomorrow," David reminded her. "Are you ready?" Rachel nodded, thinking of Karen's last words about understanding the precursor's message. "We're not just teaching them how to use the technology," she said. "We're teaching them how to be healers, how to see the damage that needs fixing, and how to make things whole again." She looked out at the stars one last time before heading to her quarters. The galaxy was vast, and there was still so much work to do. But humanity had found its true purpose among the stars. They weren't conquerors or destroyers. They were healers, guardians of the cosmic web that connected all living things. And somewhere out there, Rachel was sure, the precursors were watching with approval as their chosen successors continued their work, one star at a time, until every corner of the galaxy shone with renewed light.